till 5:30, so we'll let folks continue to arrive. Oh, chill! That bobcat picture, is that a bobcat? And did you take that near your place?
Yeah, that was just taken off our front porch.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, we had a elk visiting this last couple of days too. So yeah, we have we get lots of wildlife.
Very cool. See, Director Wilson's here and Director Matthews. I think we're still waiting on a couple other board members. Do we have quorum?
Chair, I believe Frank was on as well, but it looks like he might have gotten kicked off.
Oh, no, I think I do see Director Wilson. Yeah, but maybe we're missing maybe Robin, Steve, and Eileen.
And just for clarification, Director Wilson is not on. That is City Manager of Rio Del Kyle.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm wondering, I guess we'll just wait a couple more minutes for folks to arrive. If there's anything, that's just informational, I suppose we could do that.
I believe Blue Lake was going to have its alternate. And I'm sorry, I don't know their name.
She just came in.
Okay.
She just came in. That's Alice.
Hi, Alice. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And is your last name pronounced Finnan or Finan?
It's Finan, like fine and dandy.
Great. Got it. Thank you. Let's see. We have 3 board members here, which isn't quite a quorum. I wonder if I should message. Does anyone have the capacity to message maybe folks who aren't here that we're expecting?
Sure, I can take that on. I'll do my best. I don't know how to reach Steve Madrone, but I can I can attempt to reach Robin and Frank.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm looking. I thought I had his number, but not. Oh, I think I do have Steve's number. I'll message him.
Eric, do you have the phone numbers of board members?
I unfortunately do not have Director Madrone's phone number.
Okay.
I found his.
I have it too.
And then maybe Alice, you can message Eric your phone numbers and contact information, so we have that for the future. I'm going to see if I can find anything in my old files.
And thanks to everyone who's, attending the meeting for your patience while we just wait for board members to arrive. Say post-election week, sort of. Maybe everyone's ready for a holiday.
I'll reach out to Frank.
Let's see. We do have a couple of things on that are just updates that don't require a vote. So, if we don't have.
I'm worried about the board that's here beginning a conversation, because that's the beginning of
Right.
taking actions.
Fair enough. Thanks, Nancy.
Sorry.
It's okay. Just trying to respect folks' time as much as possible. Oh, looks like we have Robin Smith coming on. Fantastic. Hi, Robin Smith. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, now that we have a quorum here, I'm just going to go ahead and get things rolling with a roll call. Director
Hey,
Matthews.
Frank.
Here.
Director Hogan is absent, but Director Finan is here.
Here.
Great. Director Castellano here. Director Smith.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Great. And I don't believe that is Director Madrone has arrived. No. And Director Wilson. No, just didn't want to miss one. Okay. With that, we will call the meeting to order at 5:37, and we'll just move right along to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the HWMA board and will be enacted upon by one motion unless a specific request for review is made by a board member or member of the public. The consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless pulled for discussion. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to entertain a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, Director Matthews with a motion and Director Smith seconding. Any other further comments on the consent calendar? Okay, and with that, we'll call a vote. Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Finan.
Yes.
Director Smith.
Aye.
And Director Castellano also votes aye. And with that, the motion passes with Director Madrone and Director Wilson absent. We'll move on to oral and written communications. Okay, this time is provided for people to address the board or submit written communications concerning matters not on the agenda. Board members may respond to statements, but any request that requires board action will be referred to staff for review. Reasonable time limits may be imposed on both the total amount of time allocated for this item and on the time permitted to each individual speaker. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. Looks like we have a member of the public, Kyle Knopp, raising their hand. Kyle, would you like to make a comment?
Hey, thank you, Chair Castellano. I'm just updating you on Frank Wilson, Member Wilson, who is having some internet difficulty, but hopefully he'll be able to sign in soon. So thank you.
Thanks for that update. Any other members of the public wish to make comment? Jeffrey.
Thank you. I actually sent it an email, but
I could just say it. I just discovered, I guess I don't know where I've been all these years, but I didn't realize that the Eureka Recycling Center was closing. And I think it's a terrible loss. And it affects my business. I'm sure it affects everybody. And I hope we can do something about this, because Eureka is the county seat, and that's where most of, that's where a lot of people are that need to take things in sometimes. Even with curbs, or even with curbside recycling, there's still going to be, times when you have like giant cardboard boxes or water heaters or scrap metal or something, and it could end up in the bay. I'm not going to take it there, but that's it's a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Prasker.
Yes, I just wanted to make a fun announcement for an event Eureka and Recology are putting on Saturday. We're hosting a zero waste open house from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. out at the Recology Recycling Facility in Samoa, 555 Vance Ave. You just go down Samoa past the cookhouse and go left on Vance Ave. It's free, family friendly. Recology will be cooking up the perfect zero waste food, corn dogs. And then we'll have zero waste crafts and tours of the facility. So definitely encourage folks to come on out and visit and say hi and demystify where our recycling goes after the blue bin. So thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Oh, great. And I see that Director Wilson has joined us. Hi there, Frank. Good to see you.
Hello, Leslie.
Any other, and Frank, just so you know, we're on public comment right now. Any other members of the public wish to make comment? Okay, seeing that, we will close public comment and move on to item number 4, which is receive the update regarding requested letters of support from jurisdictions that HWMA act in a regional capacity for purposes of organic processing and support for amendment to HWMA's Joint Powers Agreement. And with that, I will turn the floor over to Interim Director Eric Keller-Heckman.
Thank you, Chair. So as noted in the staff report and attached in the board package tonight are 2 letters of support or interest received from the city of Rio Dell and the county of Humboldt. As an update as well, staff has also received letters after the finalization of the board packet from the city of Eureka and the city of Fortuna. Additionally, Ferndale staff will be presenting their letter of support to City Council on November 16th. HWMA staff will be in attendance to answer questions as needed. The City of Eureka is also scheduled to consider their letter of support at their November 16th meeting as well. The City of Blue Lake will be presenting their letter to Council at a date that is yet to be determined. Staff would also like to acknowledge and commend not only jurisdictional staff, but their governing bodies for the swiftness of their response to this board. It goes without saying that it shows resounding support for HWMA potentially acting in a regional capacity for organics. And I'd be more than happy to answer questions on that you may have.
Hey, Eric, I think you meant to say Arcata we're presenting ours on the 16th at our council meeting.
City of Arcata and City of Ferndale are both presenting on the 16th.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you. Will you guys be at our meeting as well?
If you would like, I would be more than happy to either have myself or a member of HWMA staff available.
I think we've got Emily Benvey and Emily Sinkhorn that'll be there, so I'm sure that'll be all right. But let me touch base with Karen and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. This is very exciting. Any other members of the board have questions? Okay. Any members of the public want to make comment on this item? Okay. we'll bring it back to comments from the board. This isn't, we're really just receiving an update, but also, the capacity to express support for this forward movement. And Director Wilson, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to make comment on this?
I'm unmuted, I'm unmuted, and
Okay.
we've sent you a letter that we had addressed that at the last council meeting.
Great. And Director Keller-Heckman, you said that Fortuna has now sent in a letter?
That is correct. Staff received this afternoon at around 3:00. We received a letter of interest / support from Fortuna City Council.
That's really exciting. Well, I just want to, appreciate staff's work on this, and of course, all of our, partner cities for kind of moving forward so quickly. And I see Director Madrone has arrived. Good. Hi there, Director Madrone. Do you want to make comment on this item? We're on item 4. I think you're muted if you're trying to.
I actually think he's frozen.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, okay. Well, hopefully
A
he'll.
letter of support to you in the next couple days. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, you're kind of breaking up a little. Do you want to try speaking without your video on? You might come in better. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, let's try that.
That's better.
Is this any better?
Yep.
Great. I'm sorry I'm late. I am now present. And last night, the city of Trinidad unanimously passed a letter of support as well for organic waste flow control.
Wow. Thank you so much for that very recent news. That's very exciting. Okay. Well, I think everyone has kind of expressed support. Does anyone want to chime in anything additionally to this item? Okay. Well, we will, with that good news, we'll move on to item number 5, which is schedule a special meeting to receive and discuss draft joint power agreement amendment. I believe. Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So staff had anticipated presenting draft language to the board here tonight, but due to input from member agency staff and to ensure adequate time for draft revisions and legal review, staff is requesting additional time. Because of the quick response from jurisdictions, staff felt it prudent to respond in kind and request the board consider scheduling a special meeting for December to receive the draft JPA language. Staff recommends Thursday, December 8th at 5:30 to continue with traditional practices of the second Thursday of the month.
Super. So I guess just a quick poll from board members. Does that time work for you? It would be when we would, it's sort of our regular scheduled pattern of meeting.
Tell me the date one more time. I'm sorry.
December 8th at 5:30.
Yep. I'll put it on my calendar.
That works for me.
Thanks, Director Wilson. Director Smith or Finan or Madrone, would that time work for you?
That works for me.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Director Madrone, sorry, I don't know if I heard.
Could you repeat the times?
Yeah, December 8th at 5:30 p.m.
December 8th. Sorry, checking. on my complicated calendar, December 8th.
This Thursday.
Yeah, it's actually already in my calendar. So yes.
Great. Yeah, often we take that day off for our regular kind of cycle of board meetings. So it may just be that you automatically had it in your calendar. Great. So it looks like the board can make it then. I think that's all you need from us. Any members of the public wish to make comment on this? Okay. Seeing that, we'll move
Hi,
on.
Leslie. Hi, this is Morgan Sefcik. My video is not working. I'm with the city of Arcata.
Oh, hi.
I just wanted to mention, I was in a meeting with Emily Benvey earlier today, and she wanted me to express jurisdiction staff's interested in having input on the language in the draft JPA amendment. So I just wanted to share that. And I'm sure, Eric, I think maybe you and Emily's already expressed that to you as well, but just wanted to bring that up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Wilson.
Yeah, you don't really have an agenda for this yet, do you? Or are you building that? That's not what part of this discussion is.
No, we're not. We are simply asking that the board set a special meeting in December so that we can bring an agenda and board packet forward, which would include draft JPA amendment language.
All right. Because I'll probably bring it up in another part of the meeting, but I've got concerns that there's things that need to be discussed, and the joint session would probably be the place to do it.
Thanks, Director Wilson. And I do think it's a great, I imagine you'd probably be doing this anyway, Director Keller-Heckman, but, of reaching out to, city staff and, between now and next month, or city and county staff, jurisdiction staff, we'll just say.
That is correct, Chair.
Okay. Well, I think we accomplished that task. Agenda. Okay, and we'll move on to
Chair, I believe General Counsel Diamond has a comment as well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Can you please clarify Director Wilson's comment? Is that special meeting a joint meeting with the local task force? Is that what you were requesting, Director Wilson?
Isn't that what that meeting is?
No, this request is simply for the HWMA board to schedule a meeting in December. Traditionally, HWMA does not hold a board meeting in December. So we are asking to schedule that so we may present draft language to the HWMA board.
That's fine. If that's,
okay.
I know somebody made a comment last time. We didn't want to meet for the sake of meeting with the local task force. And I agree with that too. I don't want to meet just for the sake of meeting. I want there to be substance to the meeting, because there are the whole thing that we're trying to address is this 1383. And I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but we've sat still here. Virtually, we've lost a year between the former executive director and what's been going on. We as far as moving forward, is following any bit of this roadmap that was given to us that we talked about at the last meeting, and getting something accomplished. I know Ria Dell asked for a 5-year waiver, which was submitted in December of 2021. So one year of the 5 years is already shot. And the timeline on stuff that is on that roadmap, which we accepted, which is a good roadmap, a lot of that stuff, as was mentioned in the last meeting, is already history. The dates have gone by, and we've got a lot of stuff to do, as you're talking about, to get a place to even begin to make this work for the county. And this looks to me like it's headed in a direction to be kind of a problem for all the jurisdictions in the county not being up to where they need to be. And I'm frankly quite concerned about it.
So Director Wilson, just as a point of clarification as well, this meeting will have draft JPA language that the board will approve. After the board approves that draft JPA language, it will be passed around to member agency staff and their city councils as well. So the driving factor behind the request for this December meeting is because of the strong support that HWMA received from member agencies and those letters of support and interest. So requesting this meeting is a direct response from staff and from the HWMA board in kind to the swiftness that we received support from member agencies.
I understand that, and I understand the idea to get. There's a couple other jurisdictions that aren't on the JPA, and to try to figure out a way to move them in. As we discussed in the last meeting, all this takes time, and I'm not sure where we'll bring this up in the meeting. We'll probably will have an opportunity when you talk about closing the reopening the recycling center. But the idea to move this forward and get the central agency is to be HWMA to formulate the plan and follow this roadmap that we adopted to get this 1383 accomplished. And I'm frankly concerned about how that is going to take place and how it's actually going to happen as time just keeps ticking by. That's my concern. And so I'm all for the JPA meeting. Myself, I do have a little more time now to devote to some of this than I did because I've retired, but we still need to get this 1383 thing needs to move along with some of the dictates that the state has. We're already well behind the ball, and I'm not throwing a rock at you, Mr. Is your name pronounced Keller Heckman? Is that how we're supposed to say it, or do we just?
Yes, sir. You can use the first one too. Director Keller is fine as well.
Okay. I'm not. You're doing a good job of trying to get this thing moving ahead, and as we talked about in the last meeting, whether we need to have additional meetings alongside with the local task force because it involves all the jurisdictions and how they're going to play into this. And the big area is on the financial side of how this is going to be accomplished and done in a timely manner to meet the state mandates. Otherwise, we run into problems. Even though Riddell has a waiver, like I say, a year that's already shot. And so now we're essentially going into year 2. And we haven't done a whole heck of a lot to really get this 1383 facility moving. And again, I'm concerned about it because it affects Riadell and it affects everybody. But it needs to move.
So, Director Wilson, your comments and your concerns are spot on and well noted from not only member agencies and jurisdictional staff, but HWMA staff as well. It is extremely unfortunate that this was not the first thing that happened over a year ago. This conversation should have been happening several years ago. And it's very unfortunate that this conversation did not take place this time last year or earlier. But staff, HWMA staff, member agency staff is committed to trying to move this process along as fast as possible while ensuring the necessary critical pathway is followed to ensure the best decisions are made for HWMA, the authority, its member agencies, and its residents. So I understand your frustration completely. This didn't sneak up on any jurisdiction or staff member from HWMA, but we need to ensure we're following a pathway to make sure it works out at the end of it.
Thank you for that response. It is encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Wilson, for expressing those concerns. I think they're felt by by myself, other members of the board and the community. And congratulations on your retirement also.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this item? Great. And I think I just want to just express to kind of close it out. I think our board is very, motivated to support this moving forward. So if there's anything that we need to do, from a board level or, special meetings, as much as we're able, I think that we definitely want to support the forward movement. And with that, we'll move on to item number 6, receive presentation on potential pathways and timeline for reopening the Eureka Recycling Center for the purposes of receiving self-haul source separated materials.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So a brief history of the Eureka Recycling Center. Since 2010, HWMA has operated the Eureka Recycling Center for the drop-off of CRV and source-separated materials. HWMA closed the Eureka Recycling Center on March 15th of 2020 due to the statewide shelter-in-place order from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Eureka Recycling Center was reopened August 1st of 2020 to receive source-separated material only. CRV services remain closed at this time. CRV buyback resumed the first week of September of 2020, but closed for safety issues shortly after. The center was decertified in October of that same year. At the July 18th, 2022 special meeting, the board authorized the closure of the Eureka Recycling Center effective August 1st. At the October meeting, the board directed staff to reassess this closure. In addition, the board requested an outline and projected costs associated with necessary alterations to the facility for a potential TPR amendment for organics processing. The Eureka Recycling Center, prior to closure, was the primary drop-off location for several hard-to-recycle items for Humboldt County residents. This included appliances, such as residential and commercial Freon and non-Freon appliances, stoves, refrigerators, and washing machines. The ERC also accepted source-separated recyclables at no charge. Additionally, electronic waste was accepted at no charge for residents as well. Business e-waste was accepted for a fee. This material includes TVs, computer monitors, microwaves, and other miscellaneous electronics. Prior to the closure, the Eureka Recycling Center was responsible for the acceptance, processing, and marketing of 3,000 tons of recyclable materials annually. Additionally, HWM received on average 250 tons of electronic waste to be recycled every year. These diversion activities not only afforded residents the opportunity to have their waste disposal needs met in a singular location, but allowed HWMA to begin clearly defining waste streams and direct people on site to the proper disposal locations. Below are the tasks that would be critical to reopening the Eureka Recycling Center. Ensuring e-waste and Freon appliance processing certifications are valid and up to date. Develop and distribute education and outreach materials. Rescheduling and assigning staff. Eureka Recycling Center staff is currently assigned throughout operations, not just at the transfer station, but household hazardous waste and the Cummings Road landfill. While most staff retain their regularly scheduled days, some alterations were made to accommodate operational needs. And finally, the current materials baler has a backlog of deferred maintenance, which includes replacements of the material handling belt. The projected cost for this replacement is approximately $300,000 to $400,000, dependent on needs. Staff believes mid-January is a realistic timeline to ensure all these tasks are completed and allow ample outreach activity time. In addition to reassessing the closure of the Eureka Recycling Center, the board directed staff to present an outline and projected costs for alterations necessary to the facility to prepare it for a TPR amendment. First, it's important to note the support for HWMA to act regionally. Next will be a brief description of what the TPR and an amendment will look like. Then we have the proposed facility alterations and their projected costs. And finally, staff's proposed funding sources. As noted earlier, member agency governing bodies have responded quickly to the board's request for letters of support. 3 letters have been received from the County of Humboldt and the cities of Eureka and Rio Dell to date. Arcata City Council will consider their letter at the November 16th City Council meeting. Again, Ferndale will consider their letter at their November 16th meeting. Blue Lake has indicated their support, but has not yet placed the item on an upcoming agenda. And as noted earlier, Fortuna has expressed their desire to work regionally, and staff received their approved letter this afternoon. Additionally, thank you to Director Madrone for letting us know that the City of Trinidad has also approved their letter. The Transfer Processing Report or TPR is a document that defines the general operations related to a solid waste facility permit. It includes facility specifications, drawings, and design capacity, along with the hours of operations and detailed description of all activities that take place. The TPR is required to be updated on a 5-year cycle to ensure the document reflects current activities. Amending the TPR requires an amendment application be submitted, along with draft amendment language, a proposed site plan with drawings, a general outline of material flow as well. The amendment language will specify how that material is accepted, stored, and processed by HWMA. A solid waste facility permit revision follows the same general outline as a TPR amendment, with additional environmental review required. The timeline for TPR amendments are generally 30 days, where solid waste facility permit revisions can take as little as 150 days, depending on determinations or findings. The final submittal will encompass all the above information and is presented as a package for review. Final approval of the plan is granted by the Humboldt County Local Enforcement Agency. Because these projects were not budgeted for in the capital improvement plan or HWMA's fiscal year 22-23 budget, staff has determined the 3 facility upgrades that would be essential to begin the amendment process. A complete floor overlay of the facility is the most critical component. The current floor is well past its usable life and would not be suitable for organics processing. The potential project would include a complete floor reconditioning along with a specialized top coat applied to combat erosion from organic materials. The next critical infrastructure item is 2 40-foot scales. These will be used to weigh and track all customers and tonnage related to the organics operation. The final upgrade would be a replacement of 5 roll-up doors. The current doors are non-operative and have been welded in place. This item is deemed least critical. While still needed, this project could be held until alternate funding is secured. It's also important to keep in mind that this is not all-encompassing of costs related to potential facility upgrades or operational changes. These are simply the most critical to begin draft TPR work. This is an outline of projected costs and staff's proposed funding sources. The floor overlay, based on engineering estimates provided, would total $861,062. The 2 40-foot put scales are projected at $151,632. The scales themselves are $100,000 with additional costs attributed to the installation. The roll-up doors are projected at $348,347. This includes new doors, motors, and the necessary wiring. The total projected cost for these 3 items is $1,361,041. The total cost if the roll-up door project is held until additional funding is secured, would only be $1,012,694. The proposed funding sources are as follows. The current capital improvement fund holds $900,000 and outlines a purchase of a replacement wheel loader for $650,000. Staff recommends utilizing a lease to own or financing option instead of an outright cash purchase as originally planned. In the past, HWMA has utilized financing for the purchase of 2 previous pieces of heavy equipment. This would free up cash on hand and still allow staff to replace old, outdated equipment. The final funding source is operating reserves in the amount of $363,000. Per section 3030-.1 of the HWMA policy handbook, the operating reserve account establishes a goal to maintain funds equal to 15% of annual projected operating costs. The total reserve fund for fiscal year 22-23 is $1,200,463. Staff recommends utilizing undesignated reserves for the remainder of the balance needed and refunding reserves either through the waste management fee in subsequent years or when alternate funding is attained. The total proposed funding is in the amount of $1,013,000. Staff recommends funding only the floor project and the scale at this time. With that, staff recommendation is to maintain the current closure of the Eureka Recycling Center and suspend assessing Eureka Recycling Center activities and alternate site locations until HWMA's organics facility is operational. Additionally, staff recommends that the board authorize staff to designate proposed funding sources for facility alterations related to organics processing, direct staff to prepare and return to the board with construction bid documents for necessary alterations, and direct staff to return again to the board with a proposed pathway and preliminary implementation schedule to open HWMA's organics facility. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. I know that was a lot, so let me know if you need to look at an additional slide again. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the board have questions on this item or any points of clarification? Director Wilson.
That's a good report. It's not probably what we want to hear, but it's actually somewhat probably better than what I expected. Part of this that I guess the part I'm struggling with, unless I'm misunderstanding it, is it seems that the cost is coming down on HWMA to bear the cost of making this thing happen. Is that what I'm hearing?
So the cost for the operations and the cost for facility retrofits and upgrades will either be paid for through monies that have already been collected across the tip fee in previous years, or monies that will be collected over the scales for either the organics operations or the transfer station. When we move, if the board decides to move forward with this, and if HWMA decides to take on the regional processing aspect of organics, we will need to examine and rewrite our entire waste management fee structure to ensure that we not only recoup the expenditures that we would be making now, but similar to the transfer station, have funding for capital improvements for an additional organics facility. Is that a sufficient explanation, or did I?
No, that's a good explanation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Director Wilson, the kind of gist of it is that jurisdictions did not prepare for the encumbrance of these funds. The authority did not prepare for an encumbrance of these funds. So there's only limited ways that we can fund this project at this exact time.
Yeah, I get that. And that's, I guess the problem is to reopen, I'm not, it's great to have this recycling center open back up for the convenience of I guess, probably about half of the county, not the other. If my understanding is right, the southern half of the county pretty much utilizes ecology and at Fortuna to handle most of the things that HMI is going to pick up by reopening the recycling center. Is that correct?
That's correct. But Director Wilson, as a point of clarification, staff's recommendation is to maintain the current closure of the Eureka Recycling Center. So staff is not recommending reopening. We are recommending maintaining the current closure and moving forward with the organics processing facility with the 3 outlined items in the presentation.
And I understood. I didn't clarify, but I understood. Okay. I understood your recommendation, and I don't disagree with your recommendation. It's just a point of clarity. But the thing that I would believe has the priority at this moment would be is getting this organic thing under control. And it looks as though it would take most of HWMA's reserves in order to pull that off in the short term, and then, if I understood correctly, that would be reimbursed over the long term by the utilization of the organics location or facility.
That is correct. Or other structures or ways through the waste management fee. So currently, one of the recommendations is to use $650,000 from the capital improvement fund. That $650,000 is already earmarked this fiscal year, for purchasing of a wheel loader. Staff would recommend financing or leasing to own that piece of equipment, so that frees up cash on hand. That would allow us to recoup that CIP expenditure over an extended period of time. So we would still be allowed to replace old and outdated equipment, but it would also free up capital that we could use for these activities. And then we would figure out how to replenish the CIP just as we normally would with capital improvement plans. And then the remainder is simply $363,000 of the reserve, the undesignated reserve account. And again, with the waste management fee structure, we would need to take a look at how the board would like to determine recovering that expenditure.
All right. I just somewhere I hope that these other agencies are listening to this conversation to realize that somewhere in this how this thing works out, there's going to be a cost that's going to encompass all of the jurisdictions. I believe I would expect to be a proportional thing, but all the jurisdictions of this county, in order to comply with this regulation, it's going to cost people. It's going to cost them to get rid of this waste that is there. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just it's something that we have to do, and it's not going to be a cheap fix when you want to get rid of your garbage. And I've always stated that garbage is one of the pillars that make your community work. It's not one of the ones that has the great financial return, but it's a necessary thing that if you don't have a decent garbage collection and control, you've got a problem, because garbage just exists and it continues to mount up. So, and that's where I believe that somewhere in this, the sooner that some of these other joint jurisdictions can begin to join the conversation and realize there's no other game in town other than, at this point, of how this is going to be managed, other than through HWMA. Nobody else has set up a plan as an individual jurisdiction. But if we're going to do it, we need the buy-in of particularly the county and Arcata and Eureka and I would assume Fortuna. The bigger jurisdictions are going to have to really commit to being a part of this. Otherwise, the thing will fail just because it will. I've done a lot of talking. I just put my hand down here and let somebody else give their opinion.
No, those were all really good points, Director Wilson. I'm just wondering, so how much is this going to leave us in the reserves?
It would leave us approximately $859,000 in reserves.
Is that, I mean, on the grand scheme of things, is that troubling? I mean,
I would not be recommending what I am if I thought that put the authority in a troubling position. I will also say, though, that it is in HWMA's policy handbook that we maintain 50% of operating expenses in this reserve fund. So it will be dropping it below that threshold. But I would not make these recommendations if I did not feel that they were sound.
All right.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the board?
Yeah, I just don't see any other kind of way to go. I mean, yeah.
Thanks, Director Matthews. I am curious, and again, I don't imagine you may know 100% the answer, because it seems like, I mean, and I completely appreciate, just like, okay, let's focus on the composting, SB 1383, get that moving, get that addressed, especially, it's definitely on all of our minds. And then, talk about the recycling center again at that point. Do you have any sense of kind of time scale, or anything like that? I know there may be, hey, other opportunities in the community, like surf funding or, things like that. But, of course that we don't know for sure yet.
So I would be hesitant to present you a timeline considering what has gone on in the past, and timelines that have presented to this board before have not been followed through with. So I can't give you a firm date or timeline. What I can say, and I'll be fully candid with the board and the public, is HWMA management staff does not have the bandwidth to assess both of these projects. I simply do not have the staff currently, and I don't have the time to invest what will need to be invested, staff and time-wise, into both of these projects. That's why my recommendation is to not eliminate, but suspend assessing the Eureka Recycling Center activities or alternate sites until this project is functional and operational.
Thank you. Director Matthews, and then we'll open it up for the public.
All right. So after we do all of these modifications, the floor and the scales and whatnot, are we then like 100% ready to start accepting organic? Is there more things that we're going to need to buy to put in place before?
Yeah, as mentioned in the PowerPoint, this is by no means all inclusive of potential costs. There are certain items or certain determinations that this board will need to make in the future. These are the first three critical items to not only respond to jurisdictions that have resoundingly shown their support for this activity, but this will get us on the pathway to at least doing something over there with that facility. And that will allow staff to start getting legitimate timelines in place, legitimate costs for certain activities. It will allow us to finally start circulating RFPs for this work. But no, this is not all inclusive. These are the main contributors. But one item that will need to be brought to the board is the potential for a pre-processing unit, how we go about processing the material that will be received. And then additionally, just like with solid waste, the biggest expenditure will probably be the transportation and disposal, depending on who the respondent of that RFP is. But no, these three items are not all inclusive. We will not be able to finish these and then open the doors the next day.
Sure. And I understand that, but at the end of the day, it's really nice to know that we are going to commit to a path forward and have something to show the jurisdiction. So thanks.
Thanks. Director Wilson, did I see you put your hand up?
Yes, you did. What are the three items that are going to be, is one of them resurfacing the floor?
That is correct. A complete refurbishment and resurface of the current Eureka Recycling Center footprint floor. So the entire facility will be redone with a special top coat that is designed for accepting organics. The second one is the two scales, two 40-foot scales. This will allow us to track the tonnage that comes into the facility and charge for those activities. And then the third, which staff is recommending we hold off until additional funding is secured, is replacement of the 5 roll-up doors that we have at the facility.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that that's what I heard. That sounds like you've done your homework, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open it up for the public. We've got Kyle Knopp.
Thank you, Chair Castellano. I'm going to say something that might not necessarily be popular, but that's, in my opinion, necessary and fair, which is that these expenditures are, based off of current member agency contributions over the years, possibly decades, and we're, moving below recommended reserve levels, and that those reserve levels need to be replenished, that these costs need to be spread equally and fairly across those potential new member agency members, those participating in organics, so that this burden isn't just forgotten and written off, but that it is paid back so that HWMA returns back to the appropriate reserve level, that these capital improvement projects are equally distributed amongst those beneficiaries. So hopefully that made sense, but I appreciate the conversation. I'm not expecting a comment, but I do think that is something that the board needs to consider in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Robin.
Hi there. Robin with City of Eureka. I just want to say I really appreciate this recommendation. I know it's been difficult with when we closed the recycling center and how it was handled. And I'll just go ahead and say that, our previous director just made some bad leadership decisions and we cannot go back in time. So I really appreciate Director Keller's new leadership and being able to make the tough decisions and set goals that are achievable. I wish we could do both projects at the same time, but I think it takes a lot of strength and foresight to be able to admit that we just don't have that many hours in a day. So I know we've all committed our letters and we're so eager to move forward. So I just want to thank HWMA staff and director and our board members. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin Prasker. Jeffrey, I saw your hand go up and then back down. Do you want to make public comment?
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. I'm hearing that you're needing to spend most of the money you have in order to get a composting facility going. And that seems to me like you're going to be using the tipping fees for a course of 5 years or something in order to come up with money to have an actual recycling center again, where you can bring recyclables and, water heaters and stuff like that. What do you think it's going to be like 5 years or 10 years before there's recycling in Eureka again?
Thanks, Jeffrey. We I think that we don't typically answer, questions from members of the public. But, as Director Keller-Heckman said earlier, we're not able to really give a good estimate right now in terms of responding to that question. Anyone else wish to make comment on this item? Oh, Jennifer Weiss.
Hi, this is Jennifer Weiss from the county, and I just wanted to also express appreciation for this recommendation. I know it's been really hard, and it's disappointing that the Eureka Recycling Center can't be open and that it closed, and but we're doing the best that we can moving forward, and I think that this is a tough decision, but it was the right one, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for your hard work on this. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, seeing no more members of the public with their hands raised, we'll bring it back to the board. We don't have this is a discussion item. I do think that, to members of the public's comments and to Director Wilson's comments, that there will need to be some negotiating around how, whether I can only speculate right now, but, as to how to, make sure that there are equitable contributions, in the community towards this. So I think that, I don't know if you need more direction from the board than that, of just that I think that there's really a support, to make sure that, everyone's paying their share, or, or that at least we're kind of looking toward the future to make sure that costs are shared, in the community in a way that, appreciates investments that are being made.
Chair Castellano, as a point of clarification, this is actually a voice vote item with provide other direction as appropriate. So discuss the original is receive presentation and discuss and provide direction to potentially reopen the recycling center and provide other direction as appropriate.
Oh, I thank you so much for that correction. I apologize. Okay.
So would I do something like make a motion to presentation and
so I can reread the recommendation and you could make a motion for staff's recommendation.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So staff's recommendation is maintain the current closure of the Eureka Recycling Center and suspend assessing Eureka Recycling Center activities and alternate site locations until HWMA's organics facility is operationally. Additionally, authorize staff to designate proposed funding sources for facility alterations related to organics processing. Direct staff to prepare and return to the board with the construction bid documents for necessary alterations, and direct staff to return to the board with a proposed pathway and preliminary implementation schedule to open HWMA's organics facility.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, Director Matthews making the motion and Director Wilson seconding. Is there any other direction from members of the board at this time?
I apologize. That was a very long staff recommendation, and I just want to know how should I summarize that for the motion?
Laurel, I'll make the corrections in the draft minutes when they're provided.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Laurel. Okay. With that, Eric, do you need any other direction from the board?
No, Chair.
Okay. Let's see. We'll bring it to a vote. Director Matthews?
Yes.
Director Finan?
Yes.
Director Castellanos, yes. Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Madrone?
Yes.
Thank you. And Director Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to item number 7, which is a standing item, the recycling update. I believe that was somewhat included in our last presentation, but do you have anything else to add, Director Keller-Heckman?
No, Chair. I will let the previous presentation stand as the recycling item update.
Okay, thank you. And now we're at item number 8, standing item, board member reports. Do any members of the board wish to make a report at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will close that item and move on to item number 10, the executive director's report.
I do not have any additional reports at this time.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we do have a closed session item. So I will read that item and see if any members of the public wish to make comment on that before the board moves into closed session. This is item number 10. Is the intention of the board of directors to meet in closed session for one item, public employment evaluation, interim executive director pursuant to government code section 54957. Do any members of the public wish to make comment on this item? Robin Prasker.
Just wanted to say that the city of Eureka has been very happy with Director Keller's leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Kyle Knopp.
Thank you, Chair Castellano. I also just want to say I think Eric is doing a great job and fully support him. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always great to have leadership from our member cities voicing support. So I appreciate y'all speaking up. Jennifer Weiss.
I'm going to join the praise club and on behalf of the county, thank you, Eric, for everything that you've done. And you know, you were in a tough position these last couple of months. And so we really appreciate and support you as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Morgan.
Yeah, I'd like to also just echo what folks are saying and say thank you, Eric. You're doing a wonderful job and look forward to continue to work with you.
Thank you. Jennifer, did you put your hand up again? Oh, no. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Great. Well, so with that, we will ask members of the public to leave the room, the Zoom room, and the board will remain. And we'll also ask the studio control room to stop recording at this time. Okay. We have our legal counsel here. I'll just wait for access